Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on the video. My name is Daniel Coffeen, and this is my Ranger School experience. Today we're going to be talking about Darby phase. Now if you haven't seen the first few videos in this series, make sure you click the link here to go back and watch those videos first. So the first event in Darby is the legendary Darby Queen obstacle course. Very similar to the Malvesti obstacle course, which you completed in Rap Week. I believe there is 20 obstacles, and it's just a smoke fest once again. And guess what? The RIs are really smart. So if they know that you're going to negotiate an obstacle that is primarily focused on having upper body strength, they smoke your upper body. Same thing with the lower body. It's more of a survival test than really a pass-fail or anything, but you can get minor minuses, major minuses for safety violations and stuff like that. So as you continue through the rest of the phases, the RIs are now giving spot reports. That's the other term for major or minor minuses. And you can get a major or minor minus for just about anything that the RI wants to give you one for. You can get minuses for not having correct packing list items, not having serviceable equipment, falling asleep when you're not supposed to, not being in the right uniform, falling asleep on a truck, which I didn't think was a bad thing, but I got a minus for it. 3 minor minuses, that equals 1 major minus, and if you get 3 major minuses within one phase, you get recycled. And then those minuses actually carry on throughout, and they follow you throughout the other phases. So I believe if you have 5 major minuses by the time that you are through with Ranger School, you could potentially be dropped or recycled. And last thing on the minus system is that if you have to go before a board because of a recycle opportunity or safety violation or something like that, the individuals who sit on the board, usually cadre members and commanders from Ranger Training Battalion, they see your minuses because it's on that report card, and they make their decision based off of that. Once you're through with the Darby Queen, you move into Ranger Stakes. Ranger Stakes is 27 Ranger common tasks that every Ranger is supposed to be able to complete. And I'll put all of these tasks up on the screen right here. But basically, if you go to a pre-Ranger program, you're going to learn most of these. Being a Medical Service Corps officer, I did not have a lot of experience with any of these tasks, so I struggled tremendously, racked up quite a few minor minuses for just negligence, really. And so if I could go back and relearn a lot of these things, especially the communications equipment, I would certainly do that. So recycles are individuals who failed some type of event in Darby phase and have already completed Darby but did not pass Darby. These guys have to redo, hence the term recycle. They have to go through all of Darby phase again. Now, there are several different ways that you can recycle, and we will get into those at a later time. But I just want to stress the fact that these recycles are incredibly valuable resources to you as an individual and to your squad, and it's because they are experienced in Darby since they've already done it. So you're broken down into squads. The squads are about 12 to 16 people apiece. So these are larger squads than one would see in a regular line company or line platoon. But that's because there's just a lot of individuals within your company, so your squads are bigger. Techniques is in every single phase. It's usually like the first 3 to 7 days, and techniques is exactly what it sounds like. It is techniques being taught to you on how to conduct the specific missions that you are going to be challenged with in each phase. So in Darby, the primary missions are squad level ambush and squad level recon. So during techniques is when you're going to learn all of your squad level battle drills, troop leading procedures, priorities of work. All of these are taught to you by the RIs in a very well rehearsed and specific manner. They use boards to illustrate each task that needs to be completed. These are also called the 20 boards. These are very specific. So a quick tip for learning the 20 boards and all the different battle drills is to honestly be able to recite word for word exactly what the RIs are saying when it comes to these specific battle drills. So just a quick example, it goes a little something like this. Alpha team leader halts the squad by raising his non-firing hand to a position parallel with the marching surface, fingers extended and joined. Yeah, it gets that stupid. So after every time that they go over one of the 20 boards, you actually go out and do a practical exercise. These are called non-graded patrols. And these are cadre led, and this is the time where you as a squad are able to work together, make mistakes, and develop SOPs for when the graded patrols happen in a few days. I would suggest volunteering to be either the squad leader, the Alpha team leader, the Bravo team leader as many times as possible so that you can make all of your mistakes during non-graded patrols and just be engaged during that time so that you can glean as much information as possible. There's a different program of instruction for each day. Now the thing is that the timeline for each day is incredibly tight, so the RIs are constantly trying to rush you back and forth to make sure that you meet your time hacks. The time hacks that they're going to give you are going to be pretty impossible, and you're going to get smoked quite a bit, meaning that your days are going to extend into late nights. And when that happens, you don't get a lot of sleep. So paying attention during these 20 boards is really difficult because you're tired. Oh yeah, you're only down to 2 MREs during techniques, which is also pretty crappy. So you're hungry, you're tired, you're dirty because you're sleeping outdoors, you're not showering during these days. It's pretty rough time. So my best advice, keep a positive attitude, keep an open mind, know that you're gonna get smoked and that you can't escape it. So during techniques is where you're going to hear a lot of complaints from your squad members about micromanaging the squad, because that's basically what is being taught during Darby phase, is in a nutshell micromanagement at its finest. Controlling every single person, controlling all of their movements, controlling how they raise their non-firing arm, and making sure that their fingers are extended and joined when they're trying to halt the squad. And some people get really upset with that because it's not mission command. Some people will say that it limits individuals' ability to be innovative and creative, but that's the theme in Ranger School, is they don't want you to be innovative, they don't want you to be creative, they want you to follow directions, they want you to take exactly what they say and replicate it. If you remember back to my first video, I told you on the first day of any Army school, the RIs or the instructors give you all the answers to the test, they spin you around 10 times, figuratively, and then they say, do it, take the test, pass the test, do exactly what we said, step by step. So just keep that in mind. 3 days of 1 patrol per day, then you come back to Camp Darby, you do a 1-day refit, shower, a deep clean on your weapons, get all your equipment reset, and then you go out for another 3-day FTX, 1 mission per day. And so like I said before, the missions in Darby are either going to be ambush and recon, so you only have to prepare for those 2. So when it comes to the leadership each day, there is squad leader, Alpha team leader, Bravo team leader. Now there's 6 different individuals who lead each day. There's the planning leadership, which people say is the most difficult time to be in leadership. Then there's the actions on leadership, and that's usually a little bit easier. But the downside to being actions on leadership is that you have to execute the planning leadership's plan. But every mission is pretty much the same, so there's not a lot to worry about there. So recycling happens because of a few things. Either a major safety violation, which can take the form of a negligent discharge, not filling up your water when you're supposed to, shooting at an Op-4 when they are really close to you, having too many spot reports, as I talked about earlier. You can also get recycled for failing your patrol, and you won't know if you fail your patrol until the end of the phase. It's also important to note that in any phase, if you are recycled for the same thing twice, so let's say you fail patrols in your initial entry into Darby phase, and then you recycle Darby and you fail patrols again, that is a drop from Ranger School. You can recycle multiple times, but you can't get recycled for the same thing twice. So if you get recycled for patrols your first time in Darby, and you go through Darby again and you get recycled for a safety violation, that sucks, but it's cool. You can redo Darby your 3rd time. Thing is, you can't get recycled twice for the same thing or you're done. So first call is at 05. At that time, the RIs assign the planning leadership. From that point all the way until either security halt or your ORP, that leadership is in charge. So from 05 to 06, the squad has time to do personal hygiene and get ready for the mission. At 06, the op order is given to the squad leader. From 06 until 1200, the squad leader has to do all of the following. He has to plan his mission, pitch a warno, conduct coordinations with adjacent units and higher units, produce the order, give the order, conduct rehearsals. You have to get smoked at least twice, eat somewhere in there, conduct PCCs and PCIs, equipment layout, and you have to do all of this with your RIs standing over you, watching every single move, and usually smoking the crap out of you and just making it incredibly difficult. I'm not saying that they're trying to make you fail, but they are trying to challenge you in any way possible. So during this planning phase, giving the order is probably the most nerve-wracking part of this entire process, and that's because you're trying to incorporate everything that you learned from the 20 boards that you learned during techniques and making sure that you communicate all of that to the RI's standards and expectations. Okay, so once 1200 hits, that's usually your SP time or your start point time, and that's when you step off and go and conduct the mission. Now, as soon as you step off en route to either security halt or your ORP, depending on the mission, 2 things always happen no matter what. And there's no way to avoid these things because they are graded tasks. And that is your squad coming into contact with a small enemy element and receiving indirect fire. So usually when a squad receives indirect fire, the RIs communicate that they are receiving this indirect fire because either they're not moving fast enough, they're going in the wrong direction, or just the squad is in disarray and not communicating well. But all those things may be true, but you actually have to receive indirect fire because it's a graded task. So don't get discouraged if you receive indirect fire or if your unit comes into contact with a small enemy element. Those are things that you actually have to accomplish and have to be graded on. So en route to your destination, you're also going to have to cross linear danger areas, conduct link ups. You're going to have to conduct all of those different things that are on the 20 boards. Not all of them, but you're going to have to conduct some of them because those things are graded tasks as well. So once you get to the security halt or the ORP, depending on the mission, this is where the leadership changes. And so the RIs will halt you, put you in a security posture, and then they will call out 3 new roster numbers for actions on leadership. So this part is incredibly nerve-wracking if you're not in leadership at the time, because hearing your number called is just like a stomach-dropping event. And that's because this transition period, which they give you 20 minutes to do, is really difficult. So basically what you have to do in this 20 minutes if you get called is you have to link up with the person that you're switching out with. You have to exchange all your equipment, which is very difficult because everything is tied down to your flick. So you have to untie all the knots and retie them to yourself. Figure out where you are on the map. Basically get the plan for the mission from the current leadership. You basically have to plan the mission all over again from your perspective in 20 minutes. For some reason, the people they always pick to be the actions on leadership are usually assigned very specific jobs by the previous leadership, and so all of that has to change. It just basically throws a huge wrench into your plan, but that's what they're grading you on, is how resilient you are and your ability to be able to react to change. Okay, so once you change out of leadership and your 20 minutes pass, then it's time to go and conduct the mission. And the best part about being actions on leadership is that you have 2 missions and they usually never change. So there's a lot of redundancy within these missions. Once you've done it enough, you can basically conduct any one of these missions without really knowing the plan. And that's something that I want to talk about. In Ranger School, mission success does not always equate to you passing your patrol. And what I mean by that is that the RIs are really grading the process. They're not grading the outcome. They're grading how well you are able to follow the specific directions and specific steps that they've provided you with back in techniques. And this is true for all phases of Ranger School. It's about the process, not necessarily about the results that you get from each mission. Now, being able to conduct the mission properly with a lot of violence of action, that is certainly very helpful and will definitely help your cause to passing a patrol, but it's not the end-all be-all. Once you have conducted your mission, you've conducted actions on the objective, you've consolidated and reorganized, this is probably the most difficult part, and that is the night movement to your next patrol base. And it's usually night because of how long the mission takes. But basically you get a distance and direction. It's usually between a 3 and 10K movement to your patrol base. And I say patrol base very reluctantly because you're a squad and squads don't really occupy patrol bases. However, this is the most difficult part. And it's not difficult because the movements are long or that the terrain is dangerous. I mean, all of those things do play a role, but the worst part is that it's in the middle of the night. Your night vision devices are not that great, but the biggest reason it's difficult is because of droning. And droning is a very interesting topic. Droning affects everyone differently, but it is a rite of passage in Ranger School. And droning is where you are physically awake most of the time, but you are mentally just completely unavailable. And that happens because of sleep deprivation, food deprivation, and just taxing your body in ways that you've never done before. Droning can take several forms. People will drone while they're walking and they'll just take off down a different path. People will literally fall asleep while they're walking and just stand still for a while, but the people behind them don't know that they're asleep, and so everyone's just like kind of waiting in a line for this person to move, but they're not going to move. Droning can be talking about crazy things, seeing different things. It's really just an out-of-body experience that everyone experiences it, and it's just not a good thing. It's not conducive to the environment that you're in. It's not safe. Sometimes it results in people getting tied together. It can be funny, but it can also be a disaster, and it becomes a disaster when your leadership starts to drone. When your leadership starts to drone, nothing gets done. Patrol bases don't get occupied, priorities of work do not get conducted. Droning was such a problem in my squad in Darby that we never actually established a patrol base. And what happened is we got what they call boxed. And basically the RIs come into our just messed up patrol base and they say, all right, Rangers, get in a box formation, right? Box formation, pull out an MRE, eat, and go to sleep. And that would usually happen around 4 a.m. because every morning you have to wake up at 5 a.m. for the next mission and leadership change. So you get about an hour of sleep. But that happens for 3 straight days. Then you get your 1 refit day. Then it happens 3 straight days again. Are exactly the same in every phase of Ranger School, but there's 2 parts to peers. There is a ranking of your squad members and a narrative portion, and all of that goes into an algorithm that RTB uses, and if you get a 60% or lower, you have failed your peers and you have been peered out of your squad or peered out of your platoon, meaning you can potentially be recycled. So after peers, you get back with your squad and you are cleaning all of your squad equipment, you are resetting and getting ready to either go on to the next phase or be recycled. You don't know this until you get your individual counseling. And it takes them a while to put together the individual counselings because all the cadre have to calculate all the peers and go through all of your grade sheets from your patrols. So you really don't find out if you are a go in Darby until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Once you get your individual counseling, you know if you're a go or a no-go. You go to sleep for a few hours and then the next morning get to do something that no one ever talks about, but I'm going to talk about right here, and that is called the Dog X. Basically a barbecue for all of the people who got goes in Darby. And so that's why, if you remember back to my packing list video, you want to have 50 bucks with you at all times because you actually have to pay for these hot dogs. But basically you get like 3 or 4 hot dogs, couple bags of chips, as much candy bars as you want, and you just get to pig out, and it's just awesome. It's like a refeed day. It is by far the best part of Darby. Once you're done with your dog X, everyone gets transported back to Camp Rogers, back to Fort Benning, and that's where you get to go on your 8-hour pass. Your 8-hour pass is exactly what it sounds like. You get released from Camp Rogers. You get to go reset all of your equipment. You get to go to, you can go wherever you want. You can go out to eat. You can go buy new equipment at Ranger Joe's or Commando's. I would recommend Commando's. And then you have to come back and you get ready to go to mountains the next day. Darby was by far the most challenging phase for me because I was getting over the micromanaging hump. I was learning that I have to conduct the tasks exactly how they want me to conduct them and not use ways that I think are better or that I think would save more time. It was difficult for me to learn that, especially during my first 2 opportunities in leadership. But it's also the phase where I learned the most, and I also learned that what matters more than being really, really good at regurgitating what the RIs say is being a good Ranger buddy. And what I mean by that is doing anything and everything that you can to help your Ranger buddy on your left and right. And I learned in Darby that it's not about you in Ranger School. You don't get your tab on your own. Your Ranger buddies to your left and right get your tab for you. They're the ones that are either gonna dime you out or they're gonna make you look good when it's your turn to lead. And so that's why you wanna really establish that relationship with your Ranger buddies, make them your best friends and do anything for them, because they are the ones that are gonna carry you through, and you guys are gonna do it as a team. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on Darby. In the next video, we're gonna talk about mountain phase. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you with as much candid feedback as I can. I'm really, really enjoying making these videos, enjoying the community that we're creating here. So please, please, continue to watch and continue to ask questions of me. I will see you in the next video.